Hi, everybody. Welcome to your first day of the CBP spring conference here. I'm really excited to get to chat with you all about what to look for when choosing a point of sale. Kind of what's out there, what's the technology, how's the technology going to help you all in your day-to-day practices with your tap room, and help your servers out and hopefully help drive more business to you and for you. So a little bit here about me. My name is Rachel Kesley. I am a senior growth consultant with Arryved Inc. based out of Boulder, Colorado, and I couldn't be more excited to chat with you all today. I was on a panel last Thursday, which was so fun. If you all can, go back and check out those panels, they were really fun to do. Andrew was gracious enough to give us some time, but we all kind of landed on, us being veterans of the industry. And so I've got some comments coming in here too. Actually, I'm going to try and keep an eye on both comments and everything else coming in. So, but yeah, I am a veteran of the industry, and I'll kind of stick to that. I have 20 years of food and beverage experience underneath my belt. I went to culinary school after college, became a natural food chef, focusing on vegan and vegetarian cooking. I was fortunate enough to live and cook all over the country and kind of, see what each region had to offer. And then in one of my last restaurant positions in Denver in the early 2010s, right as the craft beer resurgence was coming through in Denver, I really latched on. I loved what was happening in the city, all of the new flavors and tap rooms popping up. It was a true boom. I quickly took over the bar program at that restaurant and started really diving into meeting these brewers, brewery owners, tap room managers, and really wanted to be a part of it. I did a lot of vegan dinners every chance I could, dedicated, to make vegan anything exciting, but also to make beer dinners kind of at the forefront and as mainstream as wine dinners were during the day. During that time, I started a catering company, but really decided that, hey, I wanted to be a part of the craft beer world. So I got to do that with Renegade Brewing out in Denver. And now, since I've kind of jumped into tech after 5 years at that brewery, I now get to talk to brewers, business owners, taproom managers, the whole nine of what makes your taproom experience passion forward, passion driven, and service oriented. And so we want to talk a little bit about today about how to make that point of sale or point of service oriented for you all, make it easy to use and effective for your taproom models. I do work for Arryved. We are based out in Colorado, which is a craft food and beverage focused point of service, and was built for the craft space with industry leaders. And through our ever evolving lineup of products and features, we have seen a need for technology in taproom grow through the years, and especially coming to a head to the forefront of 2020, right? The last 375 plus days have really thrown us for some loops. And how does technology kind of have a niche and going forward into a prosperous rest of 2021 and looking into the rest of the 2020s, right? The need for contactless payments and ordering systems we've seen in the last, 13 or so months again, has really been more of a forefront than I've ever seen in my time in the industry. And so we don't think that that's going away. So what should you be looking for? I know you can have the best product in the land, but if folks don't enjoy that service at the tasting room, you can feel that pain from that. Now, in the time of that pandemic, that is hopefully lifting. We've learned in the last year what technology is bringing to the table. How can we use it? And more importantly, what's the right partner for you? What are some good questions to ask as you're looking forward into either opening a new tap room, which congratulations, or you have an existing space opening up some second locations, or you're trying to figure out where and how to interact with your customers going forward into kind of these new times. We want you to drive sales and promote growth, even in those hardest of times. So what are we gonna chat about today? Lots of things. Today we'll cover, you got to start with service, right? No matter where you're at in that process for opening a tap room, have an existing one, or opening a second location that's a full brew pub. How do you want to interact with your guests? How do you want your guests to interact with you? So we'll dive into that a little deeper. We also want to, kind of managing the tap room programming. So events. I know I have certainly missed a lot of events in these last year or so, but they are coming back, and we are very excited about them. How do you, as tap room owners, brewery owners, establishment managers, how do you make sure that you're making those informed decisions? And what are data points are going to help you drive those decisions, drive those sales, so that you can keep going, week over week, having great events that people want to come back to and that are lucrative and fulfilling for you all as well. Thirdly, we'll kind of go into prioritize flexibility, right? What has the last year really kind of given us is nothing but knowing how to be flexible, rolling with those punches as they come through. We don't really know what the next day is going to bring, but what we do know is that we can make great beer and have great communications and communities based around that. And so prioritizing how you can, I said it last week in the panel as well, but how can we, quote unquote, pivot each day and make the tap room the best it can be, even when your business changes on a dime. Think long term, right? We're in that long game, not that short game. How do we, what's going to be the most important data points for you all and your business to know and track year over year? How are you going to extract that from the point of service that you choose? What are you going to do with that? And how are you going to set that up for you all to be even more successful than you already are? And then finances, right? The $24,000 question, right? Money talks. So how much is it going to cost you? What are you getting back, right? Putting in a new point of service takes some time, some effort, and some dollars. How are you going to make sure that all of that effort, all of that capital is going to come back to you in spades as you get those doors open, or you reopen those doors, or you kind of shift your service models going forward, dependent on where you're landing. So let's kind of kick it off here with service models. There's so many to choose from, right? You've been out into the world. We've all kind of, especially in this last year, but even before and going forward, we've experienced different types of service models in every establishment that we go into. When you're looking at technology, how is that going to work for your business? How is it going to work for your employees? There's some important questions to ask within that too. Do you serve food? Are you family friendly? Are you only open 4 days a week? Do you only want to do to-go sales a couple days a week? So really nice, important pieces of information to analyze when choosing the best partner for you when it comes to technology. Now, you should have systems and technologies in place that promote that and promote your service model, but can also, again, shift and ebb and flow with you as you do. Your should be as effective during those slowest times as they are in your most slammed times. And so, what are those important bits of information that you should be looking for to help you with that? First, with service models, we got to kind of land on one. Where are you going to fit into that niche? Is it going to be counter service? Kind of what we think of as a traditional tap room since, when tap rooms became so popular. Am I going to come into your space, take it all in, go up and hang out with the bartender, start a tab there, maybe go and sit down at a table. And then when I want any snacks or merchandise or more rounds, am I going to come back up to that bar or that counter and interact with your employees there? Is it going to be kind of a hybrid model? Floating service is something that we've really seen come through the pipeline, in these last few years, probably last 5 or so years, but really in the last year and a half of, hey, we want a little bit of that counter service model, come in and be a little traditional from a tap room or a tasting room standpoint. But hey, upselling is essential, especially when you're looking at, your revenue streams through the business. So maybe we can throw a handheld in our pocket, do some roaming tableside service, not full sections, not traditional, but, we're interacting with our guests throughout their entire stay. And then, those folks can, order from the bar, order from a bartender as they walk around, kind of really opens up possibilities. or table service, right? Traditional model. I come from the restaurant background where everybody has their own section and in charge of that, and in the busiest times, especially when food is involved. Is that something that you all are leaning more towards? Wherever you lean on this, it's really up to you to make those decisions and then make informed decisions from that on how you're going to choose that technology to propel you into the future. Things to consider there is, there's also no right or wrong answer. It's truly where you land, and also, the vibe that you're kind of looking for your space. That might be day one. Your service model may also evolve into something else as you grow. Is the technology something that can help you do that? Or are you going to be beholden to what you decide day one? And maybe that's not working for you in day 537. Right? So really choosing something that will be able to meet you where you're at today and grow with you as you do. When deciding these kinds of things, space is a big factor. Is your tap room, one main awesome bar? You've got 12 to 24 taps in the back, and a few tables scattered around. Maybe that floating tableside service is great for you. Whereas if you have a huge property, full kitchen, lots of different areas of your space, maybe that tableside service is something for you. Maybe you want to shift that dependent on times of day. Wherever you land, that shifting is going to be in that, flexibility. Again, you're going to be a common theme. It is its own data point, but it's a common theme throughout this entire talk. When I was at the restaurant too, we used to joke that, we were super dead, and then the vegan tour bus or the craft beer tour bus, literal tour bus would show up, and we would go from dead to full in about 7 minutes. And if you weren't prepared for that, you didn't know those folks were coming through, how can you use the technology to be that, second, third, maybe, ghost server scenario? Can you use the tech and have 2 folks on staff service an entire full packed tap room effectively and efficiently? Just some nice data points to kind of go from and to consider as you make those decisions. And so here we've got, what do you want to accomplish from your guest experience? So maybe you've landed on a service model, but how do you want your guests to interact with you and your space? How do you want your employees to interact with your guests in a similar way? Some of the biggest and hardest questions to answer when kind of looking at that is, who is your audience? Are you in the middle of a city and you're getting a lot of young professionals on their way home from work? Or some folks, on the way to the game when we can, again, on the weekends? Or are you in more of a suburban area and you're getting a lot of families, game nights, maybe need a larger stroller section than once you had originally thought? Are you that full service brew pub? Are you a dining room? Do you need folks to have their own sections and interact with guests in a particular way? But more importantly, how do you want your guests to interact with you? Your customers, are they all, kind of younger generations and really lean on apps and love their smartphone and want to interact with the QR code and the newest, best technology? Is that something that makes sense for you in your space? Is that something that your point of sale that you're looking into offers? Do you need it? Do you want it? Is your clientele, do they even maybe know what a QR code is, right? Lots of folks coming into the last year maybe never had heard of that. Is that something that's going to land appropriately with your clientele? Or maybe you don't need it, but maybe you want it down the road. All these options are really something you should look into as you're making those decisions. Do you want your guests to have the power and flexibility to start tabs independently, right? Helping you with those bottleneck times. So if you are counter service, and you get slammed, you have a long line at the bar, you want folks to feel like they can go up and order more things. But also, if they're just trying to look to close out, is a mobile closeout something that would be helpful for you all, so that your guests can have at their fingertips, an ability to close out as they walk out the door, help you all serve those beverages versus spending most of your time, especially at the end of the night, just printing out tickets for people to sign and tip and leave. So some nice questions there. How do you want your staff to interact with your guests, and how do you want the technology to fit into that, right? Do you want a truly mobile situation where you can have some counter service at some time, even some section service, right? So you've got sections during your busiest times, but during the other times, we've got roaming table side and counter service. Is there technology pieces out there that can help you drive that service model, even when, your lunch service is different than your happy hour service, is different than your dinner service? Again, you don't have to be pigeonholed into one service model just because you decided that on day one or even before you were open. Do you want your bartenders just to be behind the bar? Do you want them to have the flexibility to go out and take, interact with your guests in different ways? Does that mean that you need to invest in a handheld? Or does that mean that you just need some terminals in the bar, and then they can, roam around and ring them in as they come back? Just what works best for you. Again, is having that QR code ordering or that web store something that is really business driven for you all? Is it helpful or additive during your service models, or is it something that maybe overwhelms you during those busiest times, but you want the ability to turn it on during slower times? Really kind of look at how that technology, especially going into after we're all used to it, how does that help you all during your tap room hours, and even after your tap room hours? Online ordering, is pickup, to go, curbside, delivery, even, is delivery allowed in your areas? Are you able to do direct to consumer? How do you want to do that? Do you want to keep that all in house and manage it? Do you want to look at third party integrations and things like that? Really, where are you wanting to go, and how that data helps affect your staffing? How do you want to use your point of sale to make those staffing decisions? Is there some reports or some data points that you can look at to see trends of business, right? When are your busiest times coming in? When you're slowest? When can you bring in that second server, so that you're not paying them to stand around, but you're paying them to really come in and drive business because you can see the trend of business coming through. So that's some reporting pieces there as well. We'll touch on that a little bit later too. Let's see. How do you want to use the tech? Again, do you, especially when it comes to food, if you're serving food, that does significantly sometimes change your service model. Having been a chef, the food does kind of throw a different pattern of how you interact with your guests, right? It's no longer me just coming up to the bar, getting a beer, and going back and sitting down to my table. I'm ordering something that needs to be prepared. That how are you going to get it to the table? Is it something that you want to have a runner, right? I make the order at the bar, and then I get a number, and now you've got to staff a runner to run that out. Is it a buzzer? Is it a call system? Is it a full service system? How do you want to, create a space where I can order all of my beers and my food, and you all can get it out to me in a really nice, effective, and efficient way, so that your point of sale can drive those sales versus kind of hindering you as you make new menu items and new edits going forward into the rest of the shift. Which kind of leads us into tips. Tips are important for lots of your employees. Work for them. It helps with employee retention, but it also factors in how you choose that service model, right? Am I just in my section, and how does your technology help you parse that out at the end of the night, right? Those individual tips versus the tip pool. Now, when we talk about tip pooling, you get into a lot more nuances here. So tip pooling, we've really seen driven with the craft beverage world, right? That tap room model, the tasting room model. Everybody helps out doing everything. When I was in culinary school, I worked in a brew pub, and that was the first place I ever saw that did something like that. We all helped each other out. No matter where we were on the floor, we could make and get a new order, run a new beer or food out to whomever. With that tipping model comes a lot of nuances. There are, certain ways that you can do that analog, but really with your point of sale, how are you going to get that molecular data to help get your folks paid, right? Is it by the hour? Is it by shift? Is it by, category sales. How do you do it on paychecks? Do you do it night of? Do you do it next day? Sometimes cash day of, and credit card tips the next day. So that can kind of create a brain melting situation. Math is hard, especially at the end of a shift and a long shift. Does the point of sale that you're looking at give you that data to help you make those driven, informed decisions to be able to get money into the hand easily, get your employees taken care of? All right. Tracking your weekly programming at your tap rooms. Do you have the tools to do it? So again, this can be large events, right? So anniversary parties, beer festivals, concerts. We have a lot of folks doing concerts hopefully again these days, but I'm hopeful that outdoor concerts are coming back around really soon. How do you make the most of that weekly programming? So your trivia, your run clubs, your bingo, cornhole leagues, whatever that is for you, are those events truly driving sales? How do you know? What are your metrics for that? How can you create, little SOPs, standard operating procedures for your bartenders to be able to track that kind of thing? Here coming in, we've got like trivia, right? Lots of tools, hopefully, that you can utilize. So ask those good questions. How do we know that trivia is driving sales? Trivia is fairly expensive to host, right? You want to make sure that your guests are interacting with trivia, but they also should be interacting with you and your menu. Are they getting a flight and just sipping on some 4-ounces and mostly drinking water, but hanging out for hours, right? Are they camping? Are they, the run club? Are they really, running for exercise every Wednesday? Or are they running to come in and have some wings and some beer and maybe a falafel sandwich? You want to be able to know exactly what that program is, how it's how you can track that experience, from a guest perspective, but really down to, hey, on Wednesdays, is this a singular driver for my Wednesdays? And are we trending up? Are we flattening out? How do we make the point of sale work for us in a reporting perspective so that we can get the most out of what we're doing by creating fun events that folks want to interact with, but also lucrative events that your employees want to work, right? So that's also another employee retention piece. How do you drive those sales so that folks want to work those events and then, get paid for those events too? Awesome. And two, with anniversary parties and large events, when we can have those larger ones outside and even inside, what are your ROIs? You spend a lot of money on that programming for that event, that anniversary party. You're brewing beer, you're selling it in a lot of different places. How do you make sure that beer fest or that anniversary party is really, benefiting your brand versus maybe creating a lot of headaches or your point of sale is not flexible enough, again, to kind of figure out how to be able to roll with you on any given day. Again, no day is the same, no shift is the same, no event is the same. But what you want to get out of it is. All right, long term here, making data-driven decisions can be a game changer. We're all in the beer industry because we love beer. We're all in the craft beverage industry because we love making good, amazing craft products for all of our customers. The old saying that numbers don't lie still holds true. How can you make proactive and informed decisions based off of the sales going out, right? So you can look at your historical data, make sure that what you're doing as a proactive decision is, based off of good information that is going out the door. When you're looking at a new point of sale, make sure you have access to all your data whenever and wherever you need it, right? You don't have to be on one computer, one device in one area. We're, once our wings become less clipped after the pandemic year, we are mobile and out there humans. We want to be giving our products out at festivals. We want to be, selling our products out offsite and in other areas. But we also want access to that data to see what our brick and mortar is doing. That's the crux of your establishment in lots of cases. What are they doing? How's it doing? What's that real-time sales look like? We want to make sure that you have access to that wherever you are in the world. And then, making decisions about what historical data is important to you when you look back over your taproom sales. Seeing trends can help drive production decisions. Can really help you kind of bridge gaps. And so we'll go to that next slide. I love that the term bridging gaps here is I use it a lot. If ever you've been in one of my demos out there, I like bridging the gap. But again, craft beverage makers and even craft food producers need different and unique data sets. There's a lot of tools out there, but how do you get what you need? What is your customer base reacting to? Maybe you made, that blueberry vanilla hibiscus milkshake IPA you all were just sure that it was going to be the next big thing. But maybe your customer base kind of really went in for some tasters. Maybe they weren't pulling through for those full pours where your margins are much better, right? You want to be able to see that data come in real time on how your guests are interacting with your lineups, either tap or food, and see exactly where you can make tweaks, where you can make edits, or, in the better scenario, hey, this beer crushed it and we sold out of it in a day and a half, and we are making that again, right? You can pull in historical data on volume, how what that production is, what barrelage is going out of your tap room. All of that information your brewers will care about. Your beverage makers are going to care about, because they can take those data points, look at their brew schedules, make sure they're bridging gaps between not having enough and making too much to really hitting that sweet spot, right? There's a shelf life on beer. There's not on spirits, but on beer, there is a shelf life. And you make, and it also takes a lot of time to ferment. It is a science, and taproom, patrons sometimes forget that you're out of the most favorite thing. Well, that's because it's the most favorite thing, but also it takes time and care to get that out of the fermentation tank and into that keg through that tap line. Now you can take that historical data and hopefully kind of bridge that gap so you don't have any outages, but you're also not overproducing. So you have to, hopefully not pour any out. I know lots of us maybe had to at the beginning of the pandemic last year, but let's, hopefully we don't have to do that again. Sorry, friends, I lost my place. What do you want to brew? How and when are folks buying that? Forecasting is huge. And so that you can never predict a day, as we all know, but hopefully you can make some more informed decisions on what you're filling those taps with. Drive sales instead of reacting to overstocks and outages. So, a lot of times when we talk to tap rooms or tasting rooms, there's a lot of technology out there for very specific things. But what is important to you on how you can see what exactly is going out of the room? Next, we've got in staffing. Again, how is your point of service going to help you with staffing? Your employees are your greatest resource, and also one of your biggest expenses. Staffing hours can be some pain points there, right? So if you're, traditionally we used to write schedules that'd be like, okay, we'll do it, 7 to, or noon to 3 is first shift and 3 to 5 is second shift. And maybe that doesn't actually translate with how customers are coming in. What information is your point of sale giving you about, when are your busiest times? Is there to the hour? Is it when a tab was started, when a tab was closed? What does that information actually give you? And how can you then backfill that into making informed decisions, again, about when and how you staff? And then how is that staff going to be, what are they going to be doing when they're on shift? How are you incentivizing productivity? Is there ways that you can track employee performance through your system? Can you, is there timekeeping? Can you track their hours, their pay rates? Can we use that for your tip pooling models? Does that translate to payroll? How does that help you make those informed decisions so your guests have a seamless, amazing experience while they're in your tasting room, but also your employees are, productive. They are, feeling supported by your point of service and sale versus being, frustrated by it on, it's not set up, or it's not giving them the tools that they need to do their job. Again, when you're busy, right? So hopefully you have some more hands on deck. But if you get caught in the weeds and you're not suspecting that vegan bus or that tour bus to come through, how can the technology help that one lonely server out until the help arrives, right? I've been in that scenario a few times, and it's, you just hold on and you get all the beers out, and hopefully that second server or that relief comes in pretty fast. But is the technology helpful during those moments, or is it a true pain point? Is it more frustrating than having a line out the door and trying to work that crowd by yourself? Can the technology really become a second ghost server in that scenario and help drive sales? How do you incentivize these employees, right? So not only are sales incentivizing, because, with larger sales, hopefully comes larger tips. How are you dictating what and how your employees upsell, right? Is it bottle sales? Do you want to get rid of an old sweatshirt because you're getting in a new tank top for the summer? So incentivizing certain merchandise items, certain beer items, maybe you need to get one beer out so that a new one can come in by the time on your tapping date. You want to make sure that your point of sale is tracking all of that information. I mean, we want to believe all of our employees are telling us exactly what's going on at all the times, but we also want to rely on some data points here. How do we make sure that you all are being able to pull reports and see with full transparency what's going out through the tap room and who is facilitating that, so you can incentivize them as the month or the day goes on, and create really nice performance metrics for your staff. Next up, we've got be informed, but be flexible. So data is king there, right? You want to know what's going out of the door and how to make those informed decisions. We also know that no day is ever the same, and no shift is ever the same. And so being flexible and being able to react and also be proactive is a really fine dance. And how does your technology, again, so you're not in the weeds on those solo missions, how do you make sure that you have space for, I can throw a handheld in my pocket when I didn't know I needed to, and take an order table side and have them print out behind the bar, so I can run back and then pour all those beers and then run them all out again, right? How do we create some space and time for effective sales, even when you're kind of caught, hopefully in the weeds, and hopefully don't have to stay there too long, especially because your technology isn't helping out. Continue with flexibility. I need to also do more yoga, right? Some of this slide really was like, oh, I need to get back into my yoga game. But important for day-to-day and long-term adjustments to your business. So day-to-day, again, no day is the same, no year is the same. How do you adjust? How do you react in a positive manner versus reacting in a kind of with your heels in the ground manner? Tech should support that staff. Your business is dynamic, and your technology should be too. Again, really create a space and how you set that up within your space, no matter if it's 10 tap room with 5 tables, or a large brew pub. How can you shift and flow given what's thrown at you during any shift? For example, this time last year, we were all trying to navigate to-go sales, right? Is to-go sales something that maybe you didn't originally put into your business model, but all of a sudden that's the only thing you're able to sell? Is your technology set up to help you do that, or is it going to be penalized and you have to add on something different, pay for a new feature, pay for another integration, a third party, etc., where you're not making your margins you were, but you're just trying to get that beer out to the world? Make sure that your investment is working for you and not against you in those times you cannot predict. To go sales truly was kind of, a surprise for lots of folks in a way that we had to do it in the last year. And when you look at kind of your business as a whole, I mean, you want your point of service to kind of meet your needs for, I would say, most of what you're doing through the tap room. You have lots of different buckets of your business, right? Tap room sales, production. Maybe you're distributing. Maybe, you have those online sales and online orders and delivery. Is your point of service something that you can, utilize 100%? Or is it, hey, can this interact with my back of house brew house software, or my third party distribution software? How can they all work together? That doesn't necessarily mean integrate, it just means interact. And so how can we make sure that you have all the technologies at your fingertips to run that business from the front of house versus back of house sales as well? Finances. So what's it going to cost, right? That's the $1 million question, literally. Considering your total cost of ownership is huge. When you look at installing and putting in a new point of service, there does become inherent costs to that, time and money. But how do you get what you need to get out of that? That's an investment. What are you investing in? How are you investing in it? And what is your hope and potential ROI on that? There's a few things there that we can look at. So, upfront costs. Generally, what I kind of talk about a lot is buckets of cost. When you look at a point of service, new or replacement, you're looking at kind of some 3 buckets of cost, which is like upfront, right? Maybe a software subscription and also recurring. So upfront cost is generally hardware, right? Probably lots of other things, but look at, what's that hardware going to cost you? Is it a rental? Is it a service fee? Do you have to pay per terminal? Where are those, how does that add up for you all in that upfront cost? And then when you look at subscriptions, right? Or software fees, what's the presented value there, right? Is there, a base cost? Do you have to pay X per feature or X per integration? Is, where you want to start today, are you going to be penalized for wanting to add a loyalty club or timekeeping or X or Y or Z? All of those things add up into your total cost of ownership. So really make sure that you understand what that package is and how it's presented. And then, kind of recurring costs, right? So what we've also realized over the last year is that cash is kind of on its way out. Lots of folks are moving to credit card transactions only, for safety, for ease of use, and for digital tracking. But when you're looking at processing fees, there's lots of ways that those can be presented, and kind of knowing what the basics are for that. And processing fees and credit card fees is a nuanced conversation. I've definitely learned a lot in my last year and a half with Arryved on processing fees for sure. And so really figuring out what your base knowledge is on that, how it works for you, and what's going to be beneficial going forward. Contracts. Do folks lock you in? Are they saying, you can have all this, but you got to stay here for, 10 years, 5 years, whatever that might mean? Really consider what that contract means for you long term. Does it clip your wings on the ability to kind of shift with the model as well? And then, cost of upsells and cost of, lost sales. Productivity versus lost sales. Is the technology going to help you all make those sales? Is it going to help your servers and your bartenders really be able to strive for success and driving sales out the door? Or is it kind of going to be bottlenecking and kind of create some harder service situations for you going forward? And then, but what does it all mean? You're probably sitting there and go, hey, Rachel, that's a lot of good information. What does it all mean? First, don't forget that we're all in this amazing industry for the beer, for the community, for the cocktails, whatever you're producing. That's what we're here for. It is a passion-driven industry, and it is electric. Secondly, partnerships are key. Make sure you're making those decisions about who you're partnering with, because it's a long game and it is a long partnership. And it should be treated as such, right? So whoever you choose for that point of service for your tap room is going to be hopefully team member in your back pocket that has your back, that is helping you make informed decisions when it comes to your technology pieces, bringing you to support, right? So make sure that those support channels are there for you when you absolutely need it. The internet does go out. Apps do have hiccups. We want to, make sure that folks are out there to support you in all of those technical decisions. We also want to make sure that we all realize that the last year has been tough, but it has taught us a lot. Besides how many times is reorganizing your closet in a pandemic too many times, it has taught us that our independent businesses are resilient, and they are able to make changes on the fly and still give top-notch service with amazing top-notch product. Make sure your technology continues that path with you. Really, I think the main takeaway here, though, is that there's no one right answer. But as independent businesses, owners, and purveyors, you shouldn't be pigeonholed into one service model. You should have the ability to flex and grow and shift as the days go by onto what works best for you, given any kind of business model, and really, make sure that you're choosing the right partners, choosing the right technology to help you do that for long years and days to come. Thank you all so much. I know you have a lot of different options and choices of what you want to listen to in this amazing conference, and especially virtually. But I do thank you so much for your time. I'll stick here on the chats if anybody has any questions. We've got the slot here for a few more minutes, but my email is there, rachel@arryved.com. And so I do hope that this week is off to a great start, and we're all looking forward to a great rest of 2021. So if there's any questions, I am here for you. All right. Well, friends, thank you so much again for your time. Shoot those questions over to me privately if you want. And we are looking forward to. Oh, wait, number one trap. What is your number one trap or gotcha for a POS you have run into? I think that's kind of up to the service model. But if it is really that kind of add-on, ad hoc, really pay per feature and per integration, that those start really adding up real fast, and you may not see it up front, and then all of a sudden you're starting to pay those bills as they come through. So I would really look for an all-inclusive system as much as humanly possible. Awesome. All right, friends. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.